Hey, this is What's Kenner French Thinking, and I am your co-host, Elaine Mingus, and I am joined here by Kenner French, who is the author of Amazon bestseller, ModernMillions.ai. And today we're going to kind of deviate a little bit connected, talking about AI, but we're going to talk about quantum computing because I honestly don't know what it is. And so I'm very, very curious. The only thing that I know is that I watched Quantum Leap as a kid, and I am currently watching Quantum Leap on Netflix. Is
Yeah.
that what we're looking at there, Kenner? Tell us a little bit about quantum computing and what are the next steps? Because it obviously seems like the logical next step after AI.
Yeah, I would consider it the final step. By the way, if people stay on board and listen and watch the whole episode, they're going to get a copy of this book, ModernMillions.ai. Wow. What is quantum computing? That's a very interesting question, hard to answer. But really what it is, quantum is the study of small, of the minute, very, very small. And a lot of people don't realize that really the hardware that's now of the future, hardware that is a computer, uses the quantum mechanics, and it will be able to do the computer will be able to do massive computations or thoughts or processing a bunch of stuff much more rapidly than a normal computer. So think of that. There's big supercomputers, and then there's artificial intelligence that could do unbelievable amounts of things, which compared to a quantum computer does nothing. Quantum computing is going to be the future of technology, because it's the biggest thing that there can be, meaning because it's so small, because it can do so many calculations. So just think about it. We will be able to figure out, you know, medicine fixes. We'll be able to do, stock market computations much quicker, faster. Oh my gosh, on an unbelievable scale than we can currently. So just think about all the stuff you are thinking about. Quantum computer can think massively quicker and give you information massively quicker than you've ever thought possible before.
My brain is still exploding. I'm still trying to so is it like AI meets supercomputer and that, or is it even more complicated, or is it even more simple than I'm making it?
Yeah, okay. So think artificial intelligence, if you really think about it, it's just kind of a application. Think of it as software, right? Quantum computing is physical because you have to have a computer that is colder than outer space that can make these calculations and computations on these little microscopic atoms, sub-microscopic level atoms. So they're basically doing all these calculations, which, by the way, little atoms can be in two places at once. Isn't that crazy? It can be in two places at once and do calculations as a result. It's called super entanglement because it's in two places at once. So if you really think about it, let's just say you have a really hard calculation with artificial intelligence, and it'll take a week, as an example. I'm just throwing this out. The quantum computer can do it in a fraction of a second. Moreover, the quantum computer in 5 minutes, as we speak today, the quantum computer, when fully optimized, because it's still in development, will be able to read the full internet in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, the
That's
full internet from beginning
that
to
is
end.
wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. That is wild. So, I mean, are we talking about like, I read as a young girl Wrinkle in Time, where we've got like time travel and then Tesseract. Like, are we talking something like that, or is that just fantastical?
Well, by the way, that's a really good question, because whenever you and I talk, there's time travel with the time, because it takes time to get from you to me, even if it's electronically. So that's one way of looking at it. But no, I'm gonna boil it down even more so. Because imagine this. Right now, traditional computers, do calculations based on the digit 1 and the digit 0. And there's kind of a format, and it does like all the stuff you and I are looking at. It does it based on ones and zeros, and does it these long strings, right? But it takes a little bit of computational power to make that determination if it's a 1 and a 0 and a 0 and a 1 and a 1 and a 0 and 0 0. Okay? It just takes a while, right? Although it's still pretty fast, much faster than it used to be, right? But a quantum computer, instead of looking at a 1 and a 0, it can inst- the computer can look at it being partially a 1 and partially a 0, or partially really even small little 0, maybe a little fraction of a 0 and a little fraction of a 1. And because of that, the because of the differences, it can do a lot more things, or a lot more computations, because you have fractions of ones and zeros versus just ones and zeros. So it can do those calculations really quickly and a little bit more environmentally friendly. So that's something to look at as well.
Yeah,
But
that
now I'm
was
going
my
to say,
actually my next question because I know that there's a lot of flack and a lot of talk about how much energy AI and using ChatGPT is using keep those, a lot of water, keeping those computers cool and everything. Talk about what is the effect of on the environment of
yeah. So
computing?
artificial intelligence, by the way, it does affect the environment. There's just no doubt about it. But then again, even traditional computers or classical computers affect the environment. Although we're just now getting, new things that are coming out where there's the AI is going to be affecting the environment a little bit less. We're not going to need quite as much water, but it's still a consideration, right? Quantum computing, it's still going to hurt the environment at least a little bit, but a heck of a lot less than artificial intelligence. You're going to need data centers.
Mhm.
There's not going to be as many data centers because they're going to be called nodes instead of having hundreds of data centers because of artificial intelligence. You might only need 8 in the United States as an example, or maybe 24 in the United States. You won't need as many, but they'll still be using power. But the nice thing to think about is, well, because of quantum computing, it will figure out ways to use less power
Mhm.
because all the calculations will be able to, you'll be able to do so much more thinking. So it's going to figure out ways to, as an example, cure cancer as an example, cure heart ailments, medical issues. Having the quantum computer power as far as computations, it's going to solve a lot of the ailments that occur in humans. I'm willing to promise you that. By the way, it might even be able to figure out what happened during the Big Bang, as a matter of fact, if that's what it actually was. I mean, that's wild to think about. It's going to be able to figure out what happened 13.7 billion years ago. Think about that.
Yeah, no, for real. But, one of the things you talked about is, diseases. And without going too far, right, in conspiracy theory world, like who's going to be accessing, who's going to be controlling quantum computing? Because, there's a lot of money behind, medications and stuff like that. That there's theories, there's thoughts that maybe they don't want to find a cure for cancer, and that if computing is able to give the average user a, hey, I'm looking at your medical history and you just need to drink a whole bunch of carrot juice, or you need to go on a 21-day fast, and all of a sudden people are cured of cancer. Who so I just at the who's in control of quantum computing at right now?
You're totally right. Because right now, it's basically the biggest companies because it costs a lot of money. We're giving each of the major companies are getting a bunch of money from the federal government because the federal government in the United States wants to, get to quantum supremacy pretty quickly before other countries do. So the answer to your question is it's going to be big time companies, AWS, which is Amazon as an example. Google has a very big push into quantum computing. IBM has a very big push, and there's some nano companies, some very small companies that are also pushing the envelope. But really, what's going to probably happen is there's going to be some governments that are going to basically, I think, take over some of that research because what's going to happen is whomever gets quantum supremacy is going to be at the doorfront of leading the world. I mean, leading humanity because meaning some very, very bad things can happen in that regard. So that's my expectation. There's companies, but I think the countries are going to take over. It's going to be nation state against nation state. The United States against China, as an example, or Brazil, because there's so much downside to one country taking over and having so much power as far as quantum computing goes that they could take over the world. I mean, by using quantum computing, you can figure out all the passwords all over the internet. Think about that. So there are some downsides. It's kind of scary, but what I would say is I like that we potentially can be able to help with some of the medicinal problems. We can figure out some of the issues with capital markets. There's a number of things we can do, but at the same time, we got to keep an eye on the fact that it could be downside of risk, insecurity, etc.
Well, I mean, if this isn't a push, then I don't know what is. And getting people that are listening to, this podcast and who are interested in AI, who are interested in quantum computing, good people with good moral and good ethics that are wanting good things for the world and the country to continue to press into it, to continue to seek out jobs in that field so that
Yes.
we can have the right people in control of AI, of quantum computing that are, trying to tamp down any potential negative influences that are doing it. So definitely get out there and get those college degrees and your
Yeah.
computer science and your AI and cybersecurity, so that we can do more good than we do harm.
Totally. You're exactly right, man, because bad can come of it. And that's one of the places I think a lot of people are looking at, cybersecurity as an example. And one element of cybersecurity is quantum computing, because man, there could be some bad that can come of it. And they actually have some new certifications that are coming forward as far as quantum computing security, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm trying to find the quote that's like, bad things happen when good men are silent,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like if we, instead of worrying about what potentially could happen with AI, it's like there, it's going to happen whether we like it or not, whether we're pro AI or not. So, might as well soldier up and get in there and be on the forefront of it so you can help develop it, you can help direct it and the way
Yeah.
it's go because it's still in its infancy, when it comes to how we use it in the mass public. So getting in there for sure. So, what are some of you talked about like it can cure maybe potentially cure cancer. What are some other real like the average person? What would they use or would they use quantum computing?
Yeah, at first, yeah, that's a good question. At first, right now, it's going to be, research institutions, big companies that are going to be advantaged from it. Again, medicinal issues, but down the road, there's going to they expect it. We expect, let's say, in 20 years, that it's going to be brought down to the small business owner level and then individual level. Because I mean, just think about it. I mean, this is going to sound a little funny, but just imagine you driving someplace. This is way overly simplistic. Let's say you live in Washington, you want to go to Florida. The quantum computing is going to make it so it's probably going to be on device, by the way. It's going to make it so it finds the exact route, exact timing, exact miles per hour, et cetera, for you to get from A to B. Now, I'm not only talking about driving from California or from Washington to Florida, but there's other things that are going to be able to get you to your goals, your retirement goals, as an example, are going to be able to be helped so much more so from quantum computing. That's way down the road, but because it's still a thing in process. But think of all the things that can help humanity that are questioned now. Well, quantum computing will probably be able to provide answers to whatever those questions are.
Yeah, yeah, and then also think, potential future problems as well on top of it.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
just for the average person, because my brain is still a little full on what
All right.
quantum. I'm trying to understand. I really am.
Okay. Ask me.
I'm a
Ask me. I want to help you
I
on
no,
that.
no,
I
no,
love this.
no, no, I'm just saying I'm a creative, right? So, like, I
Yeah.
view my whole, in my other life, I talk about storytelling and I talk about the power of story. Um, if somebody is like, okay, I totally don't get it, or maybe they do get it, they're more interested. Is there any documentaries, movies about quantum computing that will help, enlighten the average user?
Yeah. Good point. There's very little on it. There's very little on quantum computing. It's unbelievable. Because I'm a nerd about it, so I dig it, right? So I get in the weeds, I research all these people, I follow them, but there's just not very much information because I think it's so esoteric. Oh, quantum computing, really? It's just an esoteric thing. But what I would say is, in time, things are going to start popping up. It's just people are still amazed with artificial intelligence. Just wait until they find out how cool quantum computing is, man. I mean, to be able to read the whole internet from anew in 5 minutes I think it's unbelievable, right? Quantum computing is going to be, it makes artificial intelligence look like you're carving on stone. You know what I mean? It truly does in comparison.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and 10, 15 years ago, we were looking at, movies about AI and now it's a reality. So I'm assuming there's going to that this is also going to hit the entertainment industry. We're going to start seeing more about it. It's going to be kind of trying to get us ready to accept it and and understand it a little bit better. So I'm excited for that because I still could use a little bit of maybe I'll just have to look a little bit deeper into it because I'm not even a computer nerd in that regard, anyhow. But I do it really. I'm excited about how I could use it in the creative industry and marketing and advertising. I think that would be a really, really cool, because you're talking about like now, what are my customers thinking? We're already using just user
Yeah.
gathered data to help, retarget ads and stuff like that. So I think it'll be a really cool thing to do. But also kind of scary because if you're it's almost like a little bit, even retargeting ads and stuff, it's a little bit manipulative, or when we're, you're using technology that's listening to us as we're scrolling our Instagram, and then all of a sudden you see an ad. It definitely could be used for good and bad, given them, the wrong hands, the right hands, whatever it be.
Totally.
So um this has been so interesting, so eye-opening. I hope we talk about it again, but we are going to close it out. Kenny, do you have anything else to tell us about quantum computing, or talk about your vast solutions group, or maybe the community?
I do. All right. I mentioned at the end that, we're going to give away a book because people stayed with us this long. Thank you for doing so, by the way. ModernMillions.ai. It's my book about artificial intelligence, make millions, save millions, protect millions, all with the use of artificial intelligence, which, there's nothing about quantum computing here, but at least you'll be pointing in the right direction technologically. And thank you for bringing up vastsolutionsgroup.com. That's the company I run. Didn't even talk about it. I've been doing it since 2006. The company has been around since 1969. We do tax, finance, and artificial intelligence. Been doing AI since 2018. And I'm a big proponent of using technology to help retirees, to help business owners to succeed in lowering taxes and increasing their net worth.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast. What's Kenner French thinking? Where we look at Kenner and say, Kenner, what are you thinking?
Love that.